new jobs in Wisconsin. I know how important this tunnel is, the commuter rail. But this tunnel is a major checkpoint for 9 million Amtrak and MARC commuter rail passengers who pass through it each and every year. Not a joke. Think about it. Think about what you'd think about at the time. Think about how you'd feel. We've created more than 12,000 brand new jobs in 2 years. That's more than any president in American history has created in 4 years. More than half the women in my cabinet, more than half the people in my cabinet, more than half the women in my administration are women. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're sorry too. Anyway, it's about time to give President Biden the send-off that he deserves and do our final countdown of the top strange verbal gaffes, policy blunders, terrible optics, and a ton of straight-up lies. So here's the top 50 worst of Joe Biden's residency.
We have a very, in relative terms, large Puerto Rican population in Delaware. Relative to our population is minority. And so I was sort of raised in the Puerto Rican community at home.
Viva el Residente! Number 48 was during Biden's first State of the Union address, and one of many, many clues that he was not mentally fit to run for a second term as president, let alone serve a first one.
Putin may circle Kyiv with tanks, but he'll never gain the hearts and souls of the Iranian people.
Number 47 on the list is, anyway.
And so I'm going to say something outrageous. I have never been particularly poor at calculating how to get things done in the United States Senate. So the best way to get something done, if it holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to, anyway.
Number 46 on the list is a warning, Joe Biden style.
We'll teach Donald Trump a valuable lesson. Don't mess with the women in America unless you want to get the benefit.
Coming in at number 45 is this moment in July 2021 where Joe Biden was asked a question amid the noise of Marine One.
Does immigration need to be in reconciliation? Must it be in reconciliation?
What must be what?
Now, it's unclear exactly what Biden said, but it sure sounds like he said,
What must be what?
How's it going,
and
Gloria?
even though there's 1,000 things that you could fact check Joe Biden on, the news agency Reuters decided that this took priority. A video of Joe Biden responding to a reporter has gone viral on social media, with some users claiming he said, "My butt's been wiped." While his complete phrase is not entirely clear, Reuters was able to confirm that Biden did not say the words that have been attributed to him on social media posts. So they don't know exactly what Joe Biden said, but they're certain that it's not what you think it is, which means it probably is what you think it is.
What must be what?
Number 44 is one of the many reasons why Joe Biden isn't getting 8 years in the White House.
We have 1,000 billionaires in America. You know the average tax rate they pay? 8, EIGH%. 8%.
You can't serve 8 if you can't spell 8. Anyway, coming in at number 43 is the fact that Joe Biden can't pronounce the word exponentially.
The price goes up exponentially, like for cars. They have an exponentially greater chance of going all the way through 12 years of school. It increases exponentially their prospect of graduating. It also increases exponentially. We increase exponentially. We're changing exponentially. They increase exponentially, which is increased exponentially. Increasing exponentially. Prices went up exponentially. And it's increasing exponentially.
In the summer of 2023, Face the Nation did a segment about AI-generated deepfake video. Here's AI expert Lindsey Gorman showing host Margaret Brennan a potentially fake video of Joe Biden.
Yeah, so here's President Biden. All right, this one I'm going to ask you about.
You can't be pro-insurrection and pro-cop. You can't be pro-insurrection and pro-democracy. You can't be pro-insurrection and pro-American. Donald Trump lacked the courage to act. The brave women and men in blue all across this nation should never forget that.
So what did you think of this one?
He didn't blink.
Not at all, right?
So that suggests it's fake.
This one's
How
actually
you
real.
doing, Mr. Gold?
How's that?
This was actually a speech he gave.
That's right, Margaret. It's f***ing real. And it's
Oh man, this is going to be a fun one tonight, guys. How you doing, Mr. Gold? How you doing, everybody? I am attorney Michael Ehline, and tonight's going to be a fun show for us. So let's do a show of hands. In fact, before we get the show kicking, right, Mr. Gold, before we get the show kicking, I'm going to set up a poll really quick. Hold on, I'm going to set up a, just give me a second. Hold on a minute. Do you think Sleepy Joe really won the 2020 election? Because we know that anybody who questioned it had their social media accounts canceled. They were told that they were crazy people, and they were told that they are conspiracy theorists. You guys remember this? You would literally have, like, the FBI was working with Twitter to have people's Twitter accounts canceled. They censored Donald Trump's post where he said, "I want people to be peaceful." The Democrat-run news media said that the 3-hour riot at the state capitol was an insurrection, and they just kept on saying it over and over again. You know, remember Joseph Goebbels, the NAZI propaganda minister? He said, if you tell a lie enough times, that people will believe it. Well, all the college campuses and the public school blue-haired mafia were telling everybody it was a 3-hour riot. But when BLM and all the Democrat-run rioters destroyed cities and caused over $3 trillion in damage. You remember that? Over $3 trillion in damage. Do you guys remember they said it was mostly peaceful? I mean, this is going to be a fun show tonight. Good seeing you, Jody Shiloh. Jody, it goes deeper than that. So it turns out that Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, allegedly, we don't know for sure yet, but we're going to get to the bottom of it. There were files that were deleted before Christopher Wray went before Congress and denied that there was Chinese communist interference with our elections. And we know the communist Chinese were blackmailing him and his son. Remember the big guy? Remember how you'd have your social media account taken down if you mentioned the Hunter Biden laptop story, which was always a true story. And that like 30 or 40 CIA agents, prior CIA agents, and active CIA, as I recall, put together this bullshit fake report that it was Russian interference, and the whole story about the laptop was fake. Remember that? And you'd have your social media account taken down by these lefties over at Twitter, Facebook, and everyone else. Do you guys remember any of that? A 3-hour riot was an insurrection. But BLM and all these Marxists that were burning down cities and taking people out, that was just a mostly peaceful protest. It wasn't even a riot. It was a protest. Do you guys remember this? Okay. Give me a bunch of ones if you guys remember. So we're going to have some fun with this. So last week, FBI Director Patel turned over to Congress intelligence reports that the FBI, the Biden FBI, deleted from their database. So when Wray was testifying before Congress, he could say, oh, there's no evidence of any Chinese interference. Remember the China virus? Remember Trump called it the China virus? And then all of a sudden, everybody had to stay home, and the Democrats demanded vote by mail. Remember, the Democrats demanded vote by mail, not absentee ballots, which are secure. Right? But vote by mail. Everybody was just mailed ballots, like millions of ballots were just mailed to people, whether you were dead, whether you were alive, it didn't matter. Ballots were found in sewers and in trash cans that were for Republicans. You guys probably don't even remember this, but this is the real story. So we're going to get to the bottom of what really happened during the 2020 election. And then we're going to get into some Biden bloopers. Do you really think this guy got 80 million votes? Give me a bunch of ones. If you think that Sleepy Joe got 80 million votes, Give me a bunch of twos if you think absolutely not. There's no way in hell this demented old fool, a known pathological liar who lied about his legal education, who lied about being the top of his class, on the record, lied about it nonstop, total liar. His own daughter talked about in her diary that she left behind, just like his son left behind the laptop. His daughter left behind her diary at a drug rehab center where she talked about how her dad touches her in the shower and that she wanted to get away from her dad, and that she took showers late at night so she wouldn't have to take showers with Sleepy Joe. Do you guys remember any of this stuff? All right. So, all right. So I just can't believe this. So I had a little debate with one of these Marxist college professors the other day. I was over at Starbucks, which I shouldn't have even been there. I shouldn't have been there, right? Anyways, I said, look, what do you think about Gaffe Patel? Oh, all of a sudden they come up with this stuff out of the blue. All of a sudden, they fabricated some evidence about communist China. No, actually, dude, the FBI deleted all this evidence and they tried to erase it from the FBI's computer system prior to Christopher Wray lying and testifying before Congress about the communist Chinese using communist Chinese nationals and students here on exchange programs and using data that they got from TikTok to create millions of fake driver's licenses. Because with just a driver's license, you could register to vote by mail, not absentee, but vote by mail. Make sure to double tap that screen. Make sure to like and subscribe. I'm attorney Michael Ehline. I've been licensed to practice law for about 20 years now. I'm licensed to practice law in California and Texas. And I got my start doing civil rights and Second Amendment rights and criminal defense. And ultimately, I started doing workers' comp and personal injury law. And I have one of the largest personal injury settlements in the history of the United States for a motorcycle accident over $10 million involving a military veteran with a brain injury who was severely injured on a motorcycle. And I've recovered over $300 million from my clients. I worked for the criminal prosecution division at the LA City Attorney. I've also done criminal defense, if I didn't already say that. My specialty is writs and appeals and the rules of evidence. And so I'm going to approach this from the point of view of the rules of evidence. And so circumstantial evidence is how most trials are won. And so I'm going to show you that I believe that the Obama administration and the FBI, with circumstantial evidence, lied about communist Chinese interference. And I'm going to presume that it's because the communist Chinese were blackmailing Hunter Biden because they were sending him hookers and they were giving him millions of dollars to filter back to his father, the big guy. And that was all uncovered on the Hunter Biden laptop, which we were told we were told by the Democrat-run news media, et cetera, and communist college professors, public school teachers, and big tech, that it was a Russian conspiracy. It was Russian interference. This was fake information. So we're gonna have some fun. Hey, good seeing you. What's the matter? You get out of here, kid. You're bothering me. Humming. So we're just going to have some fun tonight. I got tired of covering the bomb Iran. So Gaffe Patel and his FBI was able to find out that the communist Chinese mass-produced fake driver's licenses to hijack the 2020 election with fake mail-in ballots for Democrat Joe Biden. So remember, the China virus was the genesis, the impetus of being able to vote by mail. And everybody was complaining about voter fraud. And that's why people were rioting for 3 hours at the Capitol that the Democrats say was an insurrection. Nothing was burned. One thing was stolen, a lectern. And then, of course, you look at what the Democrat-run press said about the trillions of dollars in the burning down of cities by BLM and their woke mob, right? The Rainbow Flag Mafia burning down whole cities. It was a mostly peaceful riot, okay? So we're going to get into this newly classified intelligence from August 2020 that wasn't corroborated or fully investigated and instead recalled from intelligence agencies at about the same time that FBI Director Chris Wray testified under penalty of perjury, that there were no known plots of foreign interference with the 2020 election, right? Notice how all the timing, how that worked out for them. And because of that, where Biden allegedly defeated Donald Trump. And that's from a story by Just the News. See, I'm even sounding like Joe Biden. I guess it rubs off on you. So this guy right here allegedly got 80 something or 81 million votes. This guy. Does anybody really believe that this guy got 80 million votes? Because I think that most people who are critical thinkers know that this known pathological liar, who obviously was suffering from dementia when he ran for president, was not fit to be president. I think most of us know that. So let's get into the next video. So let's just listen to what the news media had to say when this bombshell story broke. And again, these are independent news agencies, because guess what? PMSNBC, CNN, ABC, and all the George Soros Democrat-run media, of course, what do? They buried this story. How convenient. But let's listen to what this person has to say.
Allegations China interfered with the 2020 election. The National News Desk's Kayla Gaskins joining us live from Capitol Hill with more on this. So Kayla, some information was just declassified. So what are you learning as a result of that?
It was, Jan. So earlier this week, FBI Director Gaffe Patel declassified intelligence to the Senate Judiciary Committee that outlined a plot by the CCP to turn in fake ballots. The declassified document states that Chinese government had produced a large amount of fraudulent United States driver's license that were secretly exported to the United States. The fraudulent driver's license would allow tens of thousands of Chinese students and immigrants sympathetic to the Chinese Communist Party to vote for U.S. presidential candidate Joe Biden, despite not being eligible to vote in the United States. Now, the FBI document also shows that China collected the names and addresses of millions of U.S. TikTok users to create the fake driver's licenses. In September of 2020, the FBI ordered its agents to destroy all copies of the report after recalling the information in order to re-interview its sources. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman, though, Chuck Grassley, is demanding more answers into why the FBI, under former Director Christopher Wray, wanted the documents destroyed. Live on Capitol Hill, I'm Kayla Gaskins reporting for the National News Desk.
Too bad the regular news media doesn't cover any of this stuff, because this is a bombshell, guys. Let's watch the next one. I mean, it just keeps getting better and better. Here we go.
Has announced a new investigation into, quote, alarming allegations of interference in the 2020 election by the Chinese Communist Party. FBI Director Gaffe Patel says he's just sent documents to a Senate committee he suggests illustrate a plot involving fraudulent driver's licenses to be used for illegal voting. FBI claims surround a plot by the Chinese Communist Party to manufacture fake driver's licenses and ship them to the United States to be used for mail-in ballots, claims backed by the president.
It came out with China and the license plates, tens of thousands of cards. They used those cards to vote on the second election, my second, the one 2020. Because as everybody here knows, I won that election by a lot.
U.S. Customs and Border Protection did seize more than 20,000 fake IDs.
So do you guys have sound? Because I have sound on my end. Give me a bunch of ones. Give me some 5x5s if you've got sound. Complying Cyborg says no sound. So obviously I want to make sure you guys can hear me. By the way, I hope you guys like my new microphone. I've got this new Shuri microphone. I really like it. It's really cool. BZ needs to get one of these too, because he's got that real MC voice. Okay, so there's no sound. Well, hold on a minute. Okay, it's coming on you. It's coming on your end, Complying Cyborg. You might want to reboot. Somebody tell Complying Cyborg he might need to reboot. Okay, because we got sound. All right. So this is really amazing, guys. This is just blowing my mind. And yes, circumstantial evidence is how you win most cases. And in this case, what happened is the Democrats, with their friends in the communist left-wing Marxist news media like CNN, buried the story. And Christopher Wray or somebody at the FBI deleted this from their official FBI computers. Kind of like how Hillary deleted like 10,000 emails, like top secret and confidential emails in violation of her NDA and her oath of office and had them sent to her private server in the basement of her house, and then lied about it when she was under subpoena and had them all destroyed. Remember that, guys? But Wikipedia turned them up anyways. And then, of course, she said that was Russian disinformation as well. And look, I'm sure this goes on with both parties, but this is so blatant what Sleepy Joe's Justice Department did. It's just something that I had to do. Yeah. What's the matter? You've got sound. Good seeing you. What's the matter? You? I did get that text from Kinetic, and I will reach out to you again, guys. I practice law in the daytime. I wasn't even going to go live tonight. I'm just so wiped out. But I had to do this because it's so hilarious. And hopefully you guys hear the video too, because Kinetic's saying he does not hear the video. So let me go back and just play the video. I'm going to shrink down the video. Let me know if you guys can hear it.
IDs made in China and Hong Kong in 2020, but it's unclear what they were to be used for.
We heard these tidbits about China trying to do something with fraudulent ballots to go into these states that were toss-up states and throw the election. So we were hearing that, but then there was nothing that was done, and the FBI said there is nothing to it. It's internet rumor.
The FBI announcing it has located and declassified documents.
So do you guys hear it?
This request from Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman
Does everybody else hear the sound on the videos? Because obviously that's a problem if you can't hear it. So far, yeah. So SNS says he hears the video. Oh, right on, Wassa. That's cool, bro. That's dope. All right. So let's go ahead and we're just going to keep on going. Keep on keeping on. I don't know if you guys can read it, but here, that's too bad, Cyborg. I really was hoping you could, but let's get into the video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you this letter really quick. So on May 5th, 2025, Senator Chuck Grassley sent a letter requesting, among other things, that the Federal Bureau of Investigation produce a September 25th intelligence report from 2020 from the FBI's Albany field office. And this was actually deleted by the FBI prior to Christopher Wray testifying before Congress about the communist Chinese rigging the 2020 election to help Joe Biden win. And they did it with fake driver's licenses. That they were able to get the data from TikTok as well as other sources. And this is how they were able to do it. First, they create a virus, allegedly, and then they shut down the economy. Everybody has to stay home. And then the Democrats say, oh, we have to vote by mail, but it doesn't have to be absentee. Just everybody gets a ballot in the mail and anybody can vote. And the Republicans were screaming, no way. That's ridiculous. That's an unsecure election. Well, here's the receipts, guys. The IIR notes that it was recalled in order to re-interview the source. This is what the FBI alleges. They allege that they deleted and tried to destroy this evidence because they needed to re-interview the source. And they destroyed the copies of the original report and they removed it from all computer holdings at the FBI. In other words, guys, if a new presidential administration came into power, they wouldn't be able to find this, just like Hillary destroyed over 10,000 confidential and top secret emails where she used her private email and her private server to avoid FOIA requests. That's what she did. And then she destroyed it all with BleachBit. So I'm just going to read you this letter since you guys can't see the whole thing. So given this, Senator Grassley said, please provide all records relating to this interview and recall and any re-interview that was conducted, including but not limited to all communications between and among agents and intelligence analysts. Specifically, provide all emails between and among intelligence analyst Jordan Seary, supervisory special agent Charles Keller, and intelligence analyst in charge of the Washington field office, Nikki Flores. These guys are all hardcore lefty Marxist Democrats, of course. In addition, please describe all investigative steps the FBI has taken or will take to determine the veracity of the allegations in the IIR, as well as who recalled the IIR as the basis for the basis for the recall, if that basis extends beyond the request for the source to be re-interviewed. And then lastly, explain why the FBI under your predecessor required the original IIR to be destroyed. Okay, so that's called destruction or obstruction of evidence, which is a felony under federal law. So these guys literally tried to delete the evidence of Joe Biden's ally, the Communist Chinese, interfering and helping him win the election. How convenient. So he also said, and whether or not destroying evidence is consistent with the FBI's past and current practice and how it comports with federal record preservation requirements. Let's keep listening.
Buck Grassley asking for a September 2020 intelligence information report from the FBI's Albany field office. A description of the investigation into the allegations, also accusing the FBI under President Biden of destroying intelligence materials. The allegations only appear to be backed by a single whistleblower, with critics asserting the probe is only to satisfy the president and answer critics who say the FBI hasn't done enough.
Destroying
with all due respect, we've been talking about this for a long time, and I've been demanding accountability for many, many years. You mentioned Comey, Strzok, and the rest. They've got TV shows. They've got media platforms. They're fine. There's been no accountability.
Well, look, it's a fair criticism, but what I will tell people is we weren't here in the FBI in the last 5 years.
This investigation by the Senate Judiciary Committee is just one of many looking into decisions that were made during the 4 years under President Joe Biden.
Ta-da! All right. So let's get into the next one. So let's learn a little bit about Christopher Wray, okay? Christopher Wray has a long history of conflicts of interest, and you've probably seen this shifty guy testify before Congress before. So he represented an anti-communist Chinese party hero named Miles Guo at one point. I believe when he worked for King and Spalding. And then he went ahead and represented a communist Chinese party conglomerate controlled by China's VP Wang Qishan. All right. And then the FBI arrested Guo. The FBI arrested Guo on March 15th, 2023. Do you see the connection? Christopher Wray represents a guy who's against the Communist Chinese Party. And remember, all communist Chinese citizens are expected to spy on behalf of their government, and they're automatically members of the Communist Chinese Party. They have a duty to spy and to do whatever they have to do to protect and help their government. So all of a sudden, Christopher Wray gets hired by the Communist Chinese Party, and then his client gets arrested after Christopher Wray is the FBI director on March 15th, 2023. Are you guys following this so far? And to answer your question, yes, circumstantial evidence is just as powerful as direct evidence, believe it or not. Reasonable inferences can be drawn from circumstantial evidence. And when someone tries to hide, bury, and conceal evidence, the evidence that they do produce shall be viewed with distrust. And in California, that's called Evidence Code Section 412. And so because I'm a lawyer, I'm able to sort of help you understand the legal ramifications of what this dude did. I mean, this is unbelievable to me. Conflict of interest, representing a government that wanted this guy dead, obviously. Communist Chinese Party hires Christopher Wray. And then later on, when Christopher Wray is the FBI director, his former client gets arrested on March 15th, 2023. But it gets worse. It gets worse for the official narrative. And here it goes. FBI Director Chris Wray never followed up on the concerns of the driver's licenses that were issued to communist Chinese students and illegal aliens that were in our country, not just Chinese, but especially the communist Chinese students who were here on visas. And this is like hundreds of thousands of people, guys. So they could vote in the 2020 election. And then the FBI hid files and removed the evidence from the FBI's computers. And they wanted to remove it. They tried to remove it so it could never be recovered. And this is really important, guys, because that's obstruction and destruction of evidence. So Christopher Wray claimed when he testified before Congress, when Donald Trump And at least 70 million Americans were going, there's no way Sleepy Joe got elected president. They went and protested for 3 hours at the Capitol building. And then, of course, the news media said that it was an insurrection, which is total bullshit. A 3-hour insurrection. Remember, MAGA supporters are Second Amendment supporters. If they wanted to have an insurrection, they would have been fully armed and they would have taken over the entire Capitol. And we know that Antifa, as well as undercover FBI informants, were in those audiences causing a lot of destruction, inviting people into the Capitol, and then later arresting people and putting them into 10 by 10 jail cells in Washington, D.C., the Soviet Socialist Republic of Washington, D.C., and denying them the right to a lawyer. Now, had this happened to an illegal alien, the Democrats would have been up in arms and they'd be rioting, having mostly peaceful riots in the streets while they destroyed cities and burned down department stores and looted, right? Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. But everything that Christopher Wray said was a lie. And so Christopher Wray's FBI covered up the communist Chinese story about how they interfered with our 2020 election after the China virus made it possible to shut down the economy and cause vote by mail to happen. So based on my understanding of the law, that's circumstantial evidence right there that there was definitely a conspiracy between the communist Chinese and the DNC to rig the 2020 election, just based on my understanding of the law as an attorney. Now, obviously, I'd like to have a Marxist come on, maybe at a college professor, to debate that with me, but it's obvious to me because I'm an attorney and I know the law that is circumstantial evidence of a conspiracy to commit voter fraud. So let's get into the next one. All right. So Kash Patel uncovered the proof. So probably they had to hire a data reconstruction expert to go into the FBI computer system and get this information. But the former FBI boss, Christopher Wray's FBI, went ahead and buried this evidence. And that's what happened. And Kash Patel vowed to take action. And so what he said is the FBI was investigating at the time the existence of CCP produced driver's licenses to obtain paper ballots, and the Albany office published an IRR on the claims, right? But FBI bosses, the guys that Biden put in place, shut down this investigation into the Communist Chinese Party to shield Christopher Wray from the fallout. So when he testified before Congress, he could say with a straight face, there's no evidence of the Communist Chinese interfering in the last election, right? While they were arresting people who were protesting and they were shutting down their social media accounts, deleting all of their profiles off of Facebook and all the Democrat-run social media sites. Remember this, guys? Give me a bunch of ones if you remember this. FBI Director Kash Patel said he will reveal on Wednesday, which he did already, proof that former Director Christopher Wray lied under oath to Congress, which is perjury, by the way, if you guys don't know what that is, when he said there was no proof that China interfered with the 2020 presidential election. That's also known as high treason, guys. So this is getting better and better and better. So let's go ahead and watch the next video. This is really interesting. Patel dropped a bomb stating that China, hold on, stand by, stating that China had mass-produced fake U.S. driver's licenses to hijack the 2020 election for Biden. And we know that CBP officers at Chicago O'Hare International Airport seized 20,000 counterfeit licenses during the first half of 2020. So that's what were seized, right? But obviously, just like the 20 million illegals snuck across under Biden because he invited them in and gave them free everything, we know that there were at least 2 to 5 million gotaways. How many of these fake driver's licenses actually made it through on mules, on backpacks? We don't know. But let's go ahead and watch the video. Let's see if I can get it going here for you. And you guys tell me what you...
U.S. Customs and Border Protection officers in Chicago have seized more than
19,000
fake IDs.
Hold on.
In the first half
You guys,
of this
hold
year,
on, just really
with the
quick.
majority-
I want to make sure you guys got volume. Did you guys hear the sound on that? Because I think it's down a little low. Let me...
U.S. Customs and Border Protection
me
officers
know.
in Chicago have seized
Give me some
more than
5x5s that you can hear
19,000
it.
fake IDs in the first half of this year, with the majority arriving from China and Hong Kong. According to a news release issued by the CBP, the fake driver's licenses were intercepted at the International Mail Facility at Chicago's O'Hare International Airport between January 1st and June 30th this year. CBP Chicago said on Twitter, take a look at these IDs. Same person, different bio info. Officers in Chicago have kept a tally of how many fraudulent IDs have come
It's
through
low?
the
Okay.
O'Hare mail facility from January
That's what I
1st to
thought.
June
All right,
30th.
guys, hold on one second. Let me see if there's a way I can get this
Officers have
back
seized nearly 20,000
and turn up
counterfeit
this
driver's
freaking doggone
licenses.
volume. Yeah, it's
The
low. Okay, stand by.
19,888
We're
seized.
going to do it again. Sorry about that, guys. Look, I'm not a pro yet. I'm getting there. Someday I hope to be as cool as Chili DeCastro, but I'm trying, guys. Here we go.
U.S. Customs and Border Protection officers in Chicago have seized more than 19,000 fake IDs in the first half of this year, with the majority arriving from China and Hong Kong. According to a news release issued by the CBP, the fake driver's licenses were intercepted at the International Mail Facility at Chicago's O'Hare International Airport between January 1st and June 30th this year. CBP Chicago said on Twitter, take a look at these IDs. Same person, different bio info. Officers in Chicago have kept a tally of how many fraudulent IDs have come through the O'Hare mail facility. From January 1st to June 30th, CBP officers have seized nearly 20,000 counterfeit driver's licenses.
Rami.
The 19,888 seized fraudulent IDs, which arrived from China, Hong Kong, the United Kingdom, and South Korea, were in the majority of cases headed for neighboring states, mainly for college-aged students. CBP's Ralph Piccirilli said in a statement, these counterfeit driver's licenses can lead to disastrous consequences. Criminal organizations use these counterfeit IDs to avoid attracting attention to their illegal activities. CBP said many of the fraudulent IDs had the same photograph, but different details listed. A major cause for concern was that the barcode attached to the fake Michigan licenses worked. The fake IDs can lead to identity theft, worksite enforcement, critical infrastructure protection, and fraud linked to immigration-related crimes such as human smuggling and human trafficking. These documents can be used by those individuals associated with terrorism to minimize scrutiny from travel screening measures. Timothy Lamar, CBP Port Director for Dallas-Fort Worth, warned against obtaining fraudulent identity documents overseas, as counterfeiters will have access to personal information. Lamar said in a statement reported by Fox News, what is most disconcerting about these interceptions, besides the volume in which we are experiencing, is the ease in which so many young people freely share their personal information with counterfeiters abroad. He said, we'll continue to collaborate with local law enforcement to educate the public and anyone who is contemplating purchasing a counterfeit ID online on the potential dangers of sharing your personal identifiable information with a criminal element.
All right. And I don't know if you guys remember the other one, because we're gonna have some fun tonight. Hold on, let me just kind of get rid of some of these frames here. All right. So really quickly, so I don't know if you guys remember this, but Sleepy Joe, Dementia Joe, when he was a senator, had taken confidential and top secret documents from Congress and stored them in his garage next to a Corvette that his son would often borrow. And then when the Republicans called for Sleepy Joe to be prosecuted for this crime because he was not covered by executive privilege like Donald Trump was, because he was the executive, he had the authority to take stuff, to take confidential and top secret documents from the White House because he was the president of the United States, covered by executive privilege. The FBI came out and said that, basically admitted that Sleepy Joe has dementia and he's not capable of understanding the nature and the cause of the action against him. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, guys. So let's get into the next frame. Oh, this is just hilarious. So in fact, U.S. Customs and Border Protection had intercepted nearly 20,000 fake IDs around the time and the intelligence that came in, which corroborates everything that Kash Patel is saying. So that's just 20,000 that we know of, guys. There were probably millions of them. The FBI gave Congress intelligence on this in 2020, but when Christopher Wray testified originally, he said there wasn't. It never happened. And the officials who have seen the documents had an FBI whistleblower come out and say that he knew about them and he knew that the FBI tried to destroy them. So all you heard about on CNN is, oh, it's just one whistleblower and he's probably a Trump MAGA guy, right? But now they got the evidence because they got a data guy to go and pull the stuff that they tried to destroy. And this guy basically provided information that in the summer of 2020, the communist Chinese government was manufacturing and exporting fake U.S. driver's licenses as part of a plot to create voter identities for Chinese residents living in the United States so they could vote for Joe Biden in the election. And that's what happened, guys. They voted for him and they got away with it. That's what blows me away. They actually got away with it. So the next one, let's get into. So here's the next one. So the FBI covered up Chinese efforts to help Biden. This is from Politics Magazine. It's a Muse X. The FBI covered up Chinese efforts to help Joe Biden win in 2020 with fake voter IDs and mail-in ballots. FBI Director Kash Patel has turned over evidence that former Director Chris Wray lied to Congress about China's plot to help Biden win the 2020 election. The FBI had evidence that China was printing tens of thousands of fake IDs for use by Chinese nationals in the U.S. to obtain mail-in ballots. Remember the mail-in ballots that we said are not secure, should not use mail-in ballots? The only mail-in ballots that are proper are absentee ballots because they're totally different than mail-in ballots. Remember that, guys? So in addition to a human source, the CBP intercepted more than 20,000 of the fake IDs being shipped into the U.S. Wray immediately pulled the plug on the investigation. He immediately pulled the plug on the investigation. All right. So let's get into the next one. So Chris Wray and Chris Krebs lied to the American public for 4 years. They knew that Iranians, in addition to the Chinese, remember, I told you this the other night, Communist China and Iran are part of the BRICS currency system. And they're trying to replace the US dollar with BRICS currency and trying to knock out our dollar as the world's reserve currency. So not only did Communist China interfere with the 2020 election, but Iran breached the US election system and stole 100,000 identities and then posted a video online of the stolen data being used to create UOCAVA ballots. And the FBI hid this from the American people, guys. Hid this from the American people. The FBI hid this from the American people while they said that a couple of thousand people who rioted for 3 hours at the Capitol protesting this were insurgents and they were engaged in an overthrow of the U.S. government. But yet trillions of dollars in damage caused by their allies at Antifa, their enforcers at Antifa and BLM were just mostly peaceful riots, right? Or no, protests, not even riots. All right. So this is why you come to my channel to get the news, guys, because you're going to get the real story, not propaganda that's paid for by billionaire oligarchs who've been supporting the left for so long. So let's get into the next video. This is Senator Peters asking the FBI about potential coordinated voter fraud. And this video, I believe, is from 4 years ago, okay? 4 years ago. And this is what the FBI said when we tried to find out about this.
The COVID-19 pandemic, we're seeing many more people vote by mail. As I mentioned, unprecedented numbers of absentee ballots have been asked for in the state of Michigan. So I want to dispel some of this drumbeat of misinformation that we're hearing out there. And so my question is very direct. Is voting by mail secure?
Well, Senator, I think what I would say is this. We take all election-related threats seriously, whether it's voter fraud, voter suppression, whether it's in person,
they hide it
by mail, and our role is to investigate the threat actors. Now, we have not seen historically any kind of coordinated national voter fraud effort in a major election, whether it's by mail or otherwise. We have seen.
Okay, so you just saw evidence that they captured 20,000 licenses. They knew that the Iranians had 100,000 identities that they were able to get. And we know that the Chinese probably were able to create a couple 100,000 of these licenses that made it through. And since it was through vote by mail, there's really no way that it could be found out because all you needed was a driver's license in order to do this. Let's keep listening.
Fraud at the local level from time to time. And so my comment should in no way be construed as minimizing how seriously we take our responsibility to investigate such incidents or the potential impact those things could have at the local level. So it's on our radar. Certainly to change a federal election outcome by mounting that kind of fraud at scale
Try it, One
would
Love.
be a major challenge for an adversary, but people should make no mistake, we're vigilant as to the threat and watching it carefully because we're in an uncharted new territory. And I think as far as risk assessments of any particular state's processes or systems, I would defer to Mr. Cuccinelli and DHS CISA because that's really more in their lane.
Right, but your answer is clear. You've not seen any widespread
Liar.
fraud by mail, and it's something the FBI watches continuously to make sure that that's not happening. So
Something we would investigate seriously.
Absolutely.
And aggressively.
Ridiculous. So you guys just saw the evidence that basically the FBI tried to use their version of BleachBit to bury all this evidence of communist Chinese and Iranian interference with our elections. And they said that anybody who talked about it was engaged in Russian disinformation, right? Here, let's listen to this professional con man, Christopher Wray, talk about it over here.
Thank you. Thank Director for being here. And I'm not going to ask you to comment about any specific cases, especially in this setting, matters that are highly compartmented. But I do want to point things that are in the public record. The first is May of last year, the Senate Intelligence Committee, as part of our review of the 2016 election, in an interim report, stated that there had been a number of counties across the country in which foreign actors had been in a position, if they wanted to change and influence voter databases. They didn't do so, but they were in a position to do so. That was
Sure they
disclosed.
didn't.
As you can imagine, a few weeks ago when the Mueller report came out, it had a brief but obviously significant mention that at least one Florida county had been impacted by an intrusion, and it has.
And I see your comments about the psychopath that was here the other day. I think we got that figured out, guys. And I apologize for that. I wasn't really embarrassed, but I wasn't happy about it. But I've taken measures now to allow certain moderators the authority to go ahead and dispatch people like that. Because when somebody starts saying stuff like that about my buddy Wussa, obviously I don't want him here, but I didn't want to make a big scene yesterday either. So please accept my apologies. It won't happen again. All right, let's keep going.
As you can imagine, across our 67 counties, a tremendous amount of attention, to say the least. And I know that you've heard from both my colleague, Senator Scott, and from
probably nothing,
Governor,
One Love.
Governor DeSantis. So, the one hand, I explain to people, we are always trying to protect our methods and sources. And so sometimes by revealing information, you have revealed how you learned about it, and thereby compromise the ability to learn about it in the future. On the other hand, you can imagine if you're a county election official anywhere in America, I'm not talking about specifically about Florida, and you hear that you may have been potentially one of those impacted and no one's told you that directly, it puts them in a very difficult position. So just thinking through, well, how can we handle a matter, and these are just hard things, and sometimes it's not entirely the FBI's decision to make, or any other agency for that matter, but I think I've described sort of just writ large, let's just back up from Florida and just say writ large. Man, that's a tough spot to be in, other than to tell people, if you do these things, you should be fine, but we can't tell you who it is that's been impacted because we'll lose the ability to learn about it in the future. Is there any thought being given to how to confront this in the future, the balance between notifying a county or a victim of this sort of intrusion and the ability to protect our methods and sources?
So I think you've identified a particularly vexing problem, as you've, I think, correctly framed. It is something that we in the intelligence community struggle with quite a bit. We have tried to put in place a fairly specific protocol that is intended.
Yeah, deleting evidence of communist Chinese and Iranian interference with the 2020 election is the protocol that this piece of shit put in place. It's ridiculous. Listen to this freaking scumbag.
To guide a thoughtful and disciplined decision-making process for when we notify victims of a cyber attack, whether it's in the election context or anything else. And it goes through a lot of the considerations that would
That is what it is,
apply.
man.
So things ranging from,
Thanks, I am the
anticipate some of them in your
CLT commander.
question. Sometimes the information is a particularly sensitive source or method, and if we lose or jeopardize that source or method, then we lose the ability to even better protect, sometimes even the same victim. Sometimes the information comes from a trusted foreign liaison partner and it's not our decision to make about whether to share the information. Sometimes it affects an ongoing criminal investigation and might jeopardize that. So there's a whole host of things. We also look at things like,
Or sometimes when they have direct evidence of hundreds of thousands of communist Chinese trying to rig an election for the Biden family and their corrupt family, the FBI will just destroy all the evidence and take it out of the FBI computers. And it takes an FBI whistleblower to come and testify before Congress in a closed session like what just happened to get that evidence and to hire someone to reconstruct the evidence off the FBI computer system, Christopher Wray.
how actionable is the information? Is the information we've had in a form where somebody could even do something with it? And so sometimes those factors come into attention and we try to wrestle through them as best we can. I will say that sometimes we also strike a middle ground, which is we try to provide more general information to help people take appropriate cyber hygiene steps. It's not a perfect solution, but it's a solution that intends to kind of it both ways.
Amen,
Sharing
Sullivan.
information that allows people to take some steps
Reptilian.
while it's still protecting some of those sensitive sources of information. But this is an issue that we all in the intelligence community struggle with, not just in the election context, but in a lot of other settings as well.
That's true.
One final question on a different topic. 15 months ago, as you know, the tragedy took place in Parkland, and as you've acknowledged and others, the FBI made some mistakes. There was
I don't know, Rami.
clear tips that were disregarded about how the shooter was a threat to the lives of others.
I don't know who it was. It probably was Trump. But remember, Trump surrounded himself with a bunch of deep staters. As he said he was going to clear out the swamp, he surrounded himself with the swamp. But I'm with you, Rami. I think it probably was Trump, and you're asking a rhetorical question. If anybody knows who put this piece of shit in charge of the FBI, please put it in the comments for me.
There was a commitment to a review of the policies and procedures, but
Hurrah.
so far
Good seeing you, Cannon.
there hasn't been anything public in terms of accountability aside from acknowledging the mistakes.
Yeah, I agree,
So
JC.
what is the status of that review?
So we have done not one but two fairly in-depth reviews out at our call center, which is where the key activity occurred. We've changed training, we've changed policies out there, we've doubled, not doubled, but we've increased significantly the amount of resources that are out there. We've increased the amount of oversight. We've built certain technology tools to improve, sort of put redundancies in the process to ensure that the right kinds of things are caught.
No
There's
kidding.
a whole host of things we've done. In addition, I've met with some of the victims, families of some of the victims, as has the deputy director, and we're committed to trying to get this right. We've now recently, this
Chinese.
is very recent information, but I've now put in charge of that whole division out there in West Virginia, one of our senior-most executives to run that division, somebody that we personally enlisted to really bring the right level of
What's up, Jonah?
maturity and sophistication to running that whole division. I think that's a measure of how important this is to us.
Liar. All right, so just another thief with a suit on, right? All right. So what was the result of the FBI's investigation? What was the result, guys? We ended up with this abomination, Dementia Joe. So let's have some fun with Dementia Joe.
This nation should never forget that.
So what did you think of this one?
He didn't blink.
Not at
Yeah,
all,
I am.
right?
So that suggests it's fake.
This one's actually real.
How's that?
This was actually a speech he gave.
That's right, Margaret. It's f***ing real. And it's number 42 on our list. The original video from July 2022 is an 11-minute long pre-recorded address to the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. In it, Joe Biden doesn't blink for long stretches of time, including this portion where he doesn't blink for an entire minute. In fact, during the entire 11-minute and 14-second video, Joe Biden is only seen blinking a total of 40 times.
By the way, guys, I need you to take the poll. Do you guys really think that, hold on, let me see if I can make this bigger. Oh man, I don't think I can. That sucks. I was hoping to make this thing huge. Yeah, hold on. Let's see if we can make it bigger. Do you guys see that? You guys see that image? No. Well, do you guys think that Dementia Joe really won the election? Do you really think the American people are that stupid that they would vote for such a clown like this? Just put it in the comment. Give me a bunch of ones if you think Dementia Joe actually won the election fair and square. Give me a bunch of twos if it was a fraudulent election. I just want to know what you guys think. And there's a poll also that I put up there. Let me know. Let me know. Let's get back into the video. Here we go.
And as stated earlier, the speech wasn't shot in one take. Let's watch Biden's eyes between cuts in the video.
All of these steps will reduce crime and prevent crime from happening in the first place. And
on September 19th, 2021, during a massive surge of illegal crossings at the southern border, a photographer captured several images of migrants being confronted by United States Border Patrol agents on horseback. And these images ripped through social media, where many falsely accused the border agents of whipping migrants. But in an interview with KTSM El Paso, the photographer, Paul Ratchie, said, "I've never seen them whip anyone, but it can be misconstrued when you're looking at the picture." And that should have been the end of it. But we're talking about Joe Biden and his garbage administration. So coming in at number 41 is when Joe Biden perpetuated a lie to demonize his own border agents in an effort to distract from the border crisis that he himself is responsible for.
But it was horrible what to see, as you saw. To see people treated like they did, horses barely running them over, people being strapped, it's outrageous. I promise you those people will pay.
So despite the fact that the photographer said the day before that there was no whipping, and despite there being zero proof of whipping, Joe Biden said that the border agents were guilty of whipping migrants.
They will be, an investigation underway now, and there will be consequences.
So the bottom line is what Joe Biden just did right there is a violation of law. He is the chief executive, and underneath him is the Department of Justice. So he basically said that all those Border Patrol agents were guilty until proven innocent. I mean, guys, this is worse than Joe Stalin, right? Sleepy Joe is worse than Joe Stalin. The guy is a complete nincompoop. Let's keep listening to this freaking idiot.
Consequences. There will be consequences. It's an embarrassment, but it's beyond an embarrassment. It's dangerous. It's wrong. It sends the wrong message around the world. It sends the wrong message at home. It's simply not who we are.
No, what sends the wrong message is accusing one of your own agencies of wrongdoing even after it was debunked and without any due process. In fact, a 9-month investigation and a 511-page report by the Department of Homeland Security's Office of Professional Responsibility found that the horses involved in this incident were equipped with split reins, which can be twirled by the rider to guide the horse's movements. There is no evidence that Border Patrol agents involved in this incident.
And look, I'm no supporter of the, the government. I believe you can love your country without loving your government. But I reviewed the footage over and over and over again. And I'm an avid horseman, and I know exactly what those, first of all, they weren't whips, and they weren't whipping anybody. If you watch the actual videos, there's no whipping. And even these guys that they arrested said that they weren't whipped. And they said that prior to Sleepy Joe going on the news and reading from his teleprompter.
Struck intentionally or otherwise any migrant with their reins. Yeah, no shit. So did Joe Biden or anyone in the administration apologize to the border agents for jumping to conclusions? Yeah, right. Next, White House press secretary and self-proclaimed historical figure Karine Jean-Pierre was asked to give a preview of Joe Biden's May 2024 speech at Morehouse College.
God.
Can you give us a sense of how the president will use his time at Morehouse on Sunday? Will there be any news in the speech? Will it be more of a lofty, go forth and prosper kind of speech?
He takes these commencement addresses incredibly seriously, but he sees this as an opportunity to lift up and to give important message to our future leaders. And so, look, he'll have, I think, some important message to share for these future leaders. He'll have themes in his remarks, in his commencement remarks that he'll share with them.
So according to Karine, Biden's speech was going to lift up, give important message, and meet the moment. But if you follow me on X/Twitter, and why wouldn't you, you'll have seen my prediction that it was going to be an uninspiring, dark campaign speech. And Biden's speech well exceeded my expectations, starting with this familiar refrain coming in at number 40.
The pandemic robbed you of so much. Some of you lost loved ones, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, who aren't able to be here to celebrate with you today. You missed your high school graduation. You started college just as George Floyd was murdered, and there was a reckoning on race.
Wow, are you feeling uplifted yet?
I never thought when I was graduating in 1968, as your honoree just was, we talked about, I never thought I'd be a president at a time when there's a national effort to ban books. Not to write history, but to erase history. They don't see you in the future of America.
And make no mistake, when he says they, he means white Republicans.
It's natural to wonder. Democracy you hear about actually works for you.
Sure.
What is democracy? If black men are being killed in the street, what is democracy? Betrayal of broken promises still leave black communities behind. What is democracy? You have to be 10 times better than anyone else to get a fair shot. Most of all, what does it mean, as we've heard before, to be a black man who loves his country, even if it doesn't love him back in equal measure?
God.
Translation, if you're black and live in America, you're a victim. Good luck, graduates. They don't call him Dark Brandon for nothing.
Hey, give me a bunch of ones if you think that Sleepy Joe was pandering to black people for votes. Do you guys know that under Sleepy Joe, he lost a large portion of the black male voters, especially with the lawfare, like all these bullshit charges that were leveled against Sleepy Joe that are all going to be reversed on appeal, by the way. The black males in particular said, you know what, man, I'm never voting Democrat again after what they did to this brother. I mean, they're for reals, man. I've talked to a lot of my buddies who are in the Marine Corps who are black, and they're like, absolutely not. And I've been a Democrat all my life. This guy is a joke.
Next, at number 39, is when Joe Biden visited FEMA headquarters to give remarks about Hurricane Ian. But when he was asked about something other than hurricanes, Biden decided to end the press conference and, to the surprise of a couple of his cabinet members, take an unplanned stroll.
Is Russia responsible for the rupture of the Nord Stream pipeline?
Let's stick with this, okay?
It's an important international issue.
There's a lot of important international issues, but we're here to talk about America. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Mr. President. And when Biden isn't wandering off, he's shaking hands with ghosts.
God bless you all.
Number 37 is that time that Joe Biden blamed a non-existent weather phenomena on a non-existent health issue.
I grew up in a place called Claymont, Delaware, which has more oil refineries than Houston, Texas had in its region, just across the line in Pennsylvania. And all the prevailing winds were our way. And guess what? The first frost, you know what was happening? You had to put on your windshield wipers to get literally the oil slick off the window.
So for clarity, Joe Biden claims that oil traveled through the air and onto his family's car windshield. And for some reason, this was only noticeable in the fall and winter.
That's why I and so damn many other people I grew up have cancer.
And this was shocking. Because when the President of the United States says that he has cancer, it's kind of a big deal. And the Republican National Committee was quick to tweet about it, asking, did Joe Biden just...
You guys remember that? And then they lied about it and covered it up. And now there's a subpoena for his private physician to testify before Congress because he's got such bad dementia that he doesn't have any clue what he's talking about. And he's basically admitting that he had cancer. Now they're trying to say that, oh, he just found out that he had cancer a few weeks ago. You guys remember this all over the news? Oh, poor Joe, poor Sleepy Joe. He's admitting on the news right there that he has cancer. Unbelievable.
Announce he has cancer? And of course, the Washington Post's fact checker, Glenn Kessler, responded by saying, how dumb is this tweet? Check out Biden's medical report. Before he became president, he had non-melanoma skin cancers removed. Has no one at RNC Research ever had this common procedure? However, skin cancer is caused by the sun, not oil that magically blows through the air. And keep in mind that Joe Biden didn't say, I had cancer.
Right, what's up?
He said, I have cancer.
That's why I and so damn many other people I grew up have cancer.
In at number 36, while giving remarks in North Carolina, Joe Biden gave a shout out to the area's congresswoman in the House of Representatives.
I also want to mention Congressman Deborah Ross. Where's Deborah? I just had my picture taken with her. That's probably why she left. No, all kidding aside. Anyway.
Yeah, she's dead.
She couldn't be here, actually. That's not true. I got it mixed up.
I got it mixed up. Joe Biden called out to a congresswoman who wasn't there, claims that he saw her moments before, and then thinks that he had taken a picture with her. That's not a mix-up. That's straight up mental deterioration.
Yeah.
In at number 35 is one of the many, many times that Joe Biden's math didn't...
And by the way, she was dead. He missed that part, that this woman had passed away. She wasn't even alive anymore.
quite add up.
And the order, and that increases the total vaccine order in the United States by 50%, from 400 million order to 600 million. This is enough vaccine to fully vaccinate 300 Americans.
So according to Joe Biden, 600 million doses of the COVID vaccine will fully vaccinate 300 Americans. That's like, I don't know, 2 million doses each? And this is one of the few instances where Biden realized that he made a mistake and then made an attempt to try and correct himself.
But we want to make, look, I want to repeat, it'll be enough to fully vaccinate 300 Americans.
Entry number 34 is when Joe Biden attended a Martin Luther King Day breakfast back in January 2023.
It's an honor to spend King holiday with the National Action Network and with the King family, Martin and family. And understand, Martin III, we celebrate a legacy of your beloved father and mother. But congratulations today, the honorees, including your wife, who I understand his birthday today.
So this is Martin Luther King III and his wife, Andrea. And you may have noticed that Joe Biden didn't say Andrea's name. He only referred to her as Martin's wife. Because, spoiler alert, Joe Biden doesn't know her name.
Well, look, my wife has a rule in her family. When somebody's birthday, sing happy birthday. You ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Valen. Happy birthday to you.
This is classic Joe Biden. He insisted on singing happy birthday to a woman whose name that he either forgot or never knew in the first place.
Happy birthday, dear Valen.
In at number 33 is from September 2022, when Scott Pelley of 60 Minutes asked Joe Biden about the elephant in the room.
You are the oldest president ever.
Pretty good shape, huh?
Compared to what?
Some people ask whether you are fit for the job. And when you hear that, I wonder what you think.
Watch me. Honest to God, that's all I think. Watch me.
45 seconds later.
How would you say your mental focus is?
Oh, it's focused. I haven't, look.
Number 32 on the list proves that Joe Biden doesn't read his remarks in advance.
Folks, imagine what we can do next. 4 more years. Pause. 4 more years. 4 more years.
So for clarity, Joe Biden was reading off a teleprompter, and he was supposed to say 4 more years and then pause while members of the audience chanted. But instead...
Folks, imagine what we can do next. 4 more years. Pause. 4 more years. 4 more years.
On July 4th, 2021, The 7-day average of COVID cases had dropped nearly 375% since April. Joe Biden stood on the south lawn of the White House to celebrate.
This year, the 4th of July is a day of special celebration, for we are emerging from the darkness of years. Today, we are closer than ever to declaring our independence from a deadly virus. While the virus hasn't been vanquished, we know this: it no longer controls our lives.
2 months later.
For the vast majority of you who've gotten vaccinated, I understand your anger at those who haven't gotten vaccinated. My message to unvaccinated Americans is this: we've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin, and your refusal has cost all of us.
So on one hand, COVID no longer controlled our lives, but on the other hand, he blamed the unvaccinated for getting the vaccinated sick. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, right. I never understood. Can anybody explain to me in the comments how if somebody's vaccinated, how are they getting sick? Someone tell me how that is. I mean, I wonder how much Big Pharma paid him to say that. What do you guys think? Give me a bunch of ones if you think that he's a complete idiot. Give me a bunch of twos if you think that I'm a tinfoil hatter for pointing that out. Let's keep going.
What's your problem? So in at number 31 is when Joe Biden decided to break the law.
My job as president is to protect all Americans. So tonight, I'm announcing that the Department of Labor is developing an emergency rule to require all employers with 100 or more employees that together employ over 80 million workers to ensure their workforces are fully vaccinated.
But the OSHA mandate was very illegal, and the Supreme Court ultimately ruled that the Department of Labor didn't have the authority to force employers to implement the policy, which never went into effect because it violated the Constitution.
Oh.
Womp womp. And speaking of his willful ignorance of the Constitution, Joe Biden will say anything to demonize law-abiding firearm owners.
From the very beginning, there were limitations. You couldn't own a cannon. You could own a rifle, a gun, but there were certain things you couldn't do. But they weren't weapons of war. From the very beginning, the Second Amendment didn't say you can own any gun you want, as big as you want. You couldn't buy a cannon.
It's not true.
When, in fact, the Second Amendment passed.
That's a lie.
What purpose is to have a gun that a bullet can travel 5 times the speed of an ordinary bullet? Do you realize the bullet out of an AR-15 travels 5 times as rapidly as a bullet shot out of any other gun?
Oh, I didn't realize that. Because it's not true.
It's not true.
My legislation says there can be no more than 8 bullets in a round. Okay.
Okay, so this guy's obviously an idiot. So a 5.56 NATO ball round or a 223, which is almost the same round, doesn't travel any faster if it's fired out of a bolt action rifle than it does out of an AR-15. This guy is a effing idiot. Do you guys give me a bunch of ones if you think there's no way the American people would have voted for such a freaking moron? Give me a bunch of twos if you think that he's hunky-dory.
Who in God's name needs a weapon with 100 rounds in a chamber?
In the chamber.
Of course, all of that is nonsense. But number 30 on the list.
Well, hold on a minute. So a chamber is where the round goes before it gets shot through the barrel. So I agree. I don't want a weapon with 100 rounds in the chamber. Do you guys want a weapon with 100 rounds in the chamber? To me, that sounds like a major malfunction. What do you guys think? Let's keep listening to this freaking idiot.
It's the most ridiculous thing that Joe Biden has ever said on the issue.
It made it harder for people to buy stabilized braces. Put a pistol on a brace, it turns into a gun. Makes it more, you can have a higher caliber weapon, a higher caliber bullet coming out of that gun.
So according to Joe Biden, weapons expert, if you take a stabilized brace, whatever the hell that is, and put it on a pistol, it not only changes that pistol into a gun.
So a stabilizing brace is something that was developed for veterans and people who are disabled that wraps around your arm to make your rifle more stable. I wasn't aware that it was used on pistols. I am aware that it's used on AR and AK, what they call pistols, which is basically an AR-15 upper and lower with a shorter barrel, but does not have a butt stock. And so what was happening is people were putting these pistol braces, which looks like a rifle butt, and that was considered to be a violation of the law because it converted the pistol into what's called the short barrel rifle. Okay. And unfortunately, the Democrats, as well as rhinos, passed legislation years ago. I think it's the NFA, National Firearms Act or something, that you had to purchase a tax stamp. I think it's like $200 in order to be able to do that. But this guy's such an idiot. This is why we don't want Democrats anywhere near the Second Amendment, because they don't know anything about firearms, but yet they want to ban them anyways. They know nothing about firearm safety, nomenclature, or how a firearm works. And that's probably why they talk all this nonsense. It's just crazy, guys.
But it magically changes what type of caliber bullet it uses. Oh, my brain hurts.
I'm a Second Amendment guy.
And that brings us to number 29 on the list, where Joe, second enema Biden, shits all over the founding fathers.
Those who say the blood of patriots, you know, and all the stuff about how we're going to have to move against the government. Well, the tree of liberty is not watered with the blood of patriots.
The tree of liberty must be watered with the blood of patriots from time to time. I believe that's the quote. It is from Thomas Jefferson. But like Joe Biden's always done, he butchers pretty much everything he says, does, and touches.
What's happened is that there never been, if you want to think you need to have weapons to take on the government, you need F-15s and maybe some nuclear weapons.
Hey!
With the blood of patriots as well as tyrants, if I missed that part. The tree of liberty must be fed from time to time with the blood of patriots as well as tyrants. If Rami's still here, or Wassa, if you know that, put it in the comments so that my viewers know. This is just off my memory because I know more about our founding fathers, even if it's paraphrasing the 99% of Democrats. I guarantee you that.
A, he's misquoting Thomas Jefferson. I know you're shocked. And B, it sounds like Joe Biden is threatening law-abiding American citizens with F-15s and nukes. Nothing to see here, guys.
And for those brave right-wing Americans who say it's all about keeping America's independent and safe, if you want to fight against the country, you need an F-15. You need something a little more than a gun. No, I'm not joking. Think about this. Think about the rationale we use.
So Joe Biden claims.
Wait, hold on a minute, guys. I got to clarify something, all right? Got to clarify something for you. Joe Biden, in the biggest geopolitical disaster in the history of the United States, surrendered to the Taliban and left billions of dollars worth of military equipment behind for them. They didn't have F-15s, but they defeated Joe Biden. And then, of course, what did the Democrats do? They blamed Donald Trump and said it's his fault that Joe Biden surrendered to the Taliban. What do you guys think about that? What a freaking idiot this guy is. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree that Joe Biden is the worst president in the history of the United States. Let's see it, guys. Give me a bunch of twos if you think that I'm a racist, bigot, and a homophobe, right? Because that's all Democrats can do, is that's what they call you if you disagree with them. I want to see it. Let's go.
That if you want to successfully fight against the United States government, you're going to need more than guns. But at the same time, Biden and the Democrats have claimed for nearly 4 years that when a bunch of unarmed protesters went to the Capitol on January 6th, that it was an insurrection that brought American democracy to the brink. Got it.
You need F-15s, nuclear weapons.
In at number 28 is when Joe Biden spoke about his uncle Ambrose Finnegan and how he supposedly perished during WW2.
Or was that corn pop?
Ambrose Finnegan, they called him Uncle Bozy. He was shot down. He was in the Army Air Corps before there was an Air Force. He got shot down in an area where there were a lot of cannibals in New Guinea at the time. He got shot down in New Guinea, and they never found the body because there were a lot of cannibals for real in that part of New Guinea.
So for clarity, the Pentagon's Defense POW MIA accounting agency tells a very, very different story about how Uncle Bozy lost his life in World War II. First, Uncle Bozy wasn't flying a single-engine plane at the time of his passing. He was a passenger on an A-20 Havoc. Second, according to the Pentagon, the A-20 Havoc he was flying on was not shot down. For unknown reasons, this plane was forced to ditch in the ocean off the north.
No, wait. Didn't the guys from New Guinea throw spears at it and knock it out of the sky? Isn't that what Sleepy Joe said?
North coast of New Guinea. Both engines failed at low altitude, and the aircraft's nose hit the water hard. 3 men failed to emerge from the sinking wreck and were lost in the crash. Again, to be clear, Joe Biden said the plane was shot down in New Guinea when in fact it ditched in the ocean because of engine failure. One crew member survived and was rescued by a passing barge. An aerial search the next day found no trace of the missing aircraft or the lost crew members. So unless these so-called cannibals lived under the sea, Uncle Bozy was not eaten to death. And at number 27, Joe Biden visited a Volvo manufacturing facility in Hagerstown, Maryland, and the beginning of his remarks became a defining moment of his residency.
Let me start off with 2 words. Made in America. Made in America.
81 million votes, guys. And as a bonus, listen to the brainless Joe Biden supporters who actually clapped to this nonsense.
Made in America. And that's not hyperbole. I'm not joking about that. You know.
And if you thought that was concerning, here's number 26, where Joe Biden routinely forgets that he's the president.
I took it to instill public confidence in the vaccine. President-elect Harris took hers today for the same reason. Now, when President Harris and I took a virtual tour of a vaccination center in Arizona, last week, President Harris and I stood in the United States Capitol. And that's why I asked President Harris to travel to the region last August. But all kidding aside, of course, President Harris is a proud Howard alum. President Harris is there to make sure we do this the right way. Our nation's first black vice president, President Kamala Harris. I'm not being facetious. Well, President Harris led this effort.
Number 25 on the list is probably the earliest proof that Joe Biden's staff was well aware of his rapid mental deterioration. While at a White House meeting in June 2022, Biden pulled out a card to refer to some talking points. And photographer Jim Watson captured images showing that Joe Biden was given very specific instructions. You enter the Roosevelt Room and say hello to participants. You take your seat. You give brief comments. Other instructions included, you ask a question, you thank participants, and you depart. And notice that you is capitalized in bold. You know, just in case Joe Biden was confused and thought the card was for President Harris.
President Harris.
Next, number 24 is a holiday classic, where Joe Biden started speaking to a reporter in the crowd about Afghanistan, and a very special guest magically appeared to whisk him away.
Right, Scrubzilla. Hold on, I gotta read it. This is great. Oh, this is fantastic. So, Scrubzilla says, always reminds me of someone's grandpa that like got out of the house and drove to the store, but got lost and ate too much Xanax. Hold on, I gotta recover from this one. Look at this. He's got an Easter bunny guiding him around because he has no idea where he is. I got to rewind this. This is so good. Check this out, guys.
Afghanistan, and a very special guest magically appeared to whisk him away.
Pakistan should not, and Afghanistan should be people.
Oh, the Easter bunny.
Gee, I just don't understand why our adversaries don't respect us anymore.
And let's say one thing to rest. I may be a practicing Catholic, but I used to go to 7:30 Mass every morning in high school and then in college before I went to the black church.
And yeah,
Chevy, thanks for joining me tonight. Guys, give me a bunch of ones for Chevy. He's my top contributor. He supports our channel so I can keep doing these shows.
Number 23 on the list clearly shows that Joe Biden acts like he's never been to a black church, like ever. Next, let's take a quick look at Joe Biden getting angry with and insulting members of the press.
You all are not the happiest people in the world. What you report. And I mean it sincerely. If you turn on the television, the only way you're going to get a hit is if there's something negative. You don't understand that, you're in the wrong business. That is an interesting reading of English. I assume you got into journalism because you like to write. Read the polls, Jack. You guys are all the same. Well, that's not true. You're saying things you do not know what you're talking about. No one said that. Who said that? Who said that? What do you do over there? I knew you'd have a lousy question. No, I didn't say that. Look what I said. Go back and read what I said. Take a look. Start reporting it the right way.
So coming in at number 22 is the most infamous of these insults, when Peter Doocy of Fox News asked Biden a question about the economy.
Do you think it plays with the political liability? That's a great asset. More inflation. What a stupid son of a bitch.
So instead of answering an objectively legitimate question, Joe Biden bullied a reporter and attacked him personally.
What a stupid son of a bitch.
Number 21 on the list might be my personal favorite Biden moment. This is Asian American film and TV producer Joan Shigekawa. In March 2023, Joe Biden awarded her the National Medal of the Arts. And as per usual, Joe Biden screwed up her introduction.
A contribution of Thanks, BZ. Shigekawa. Thank you. I have trouble pronouncing it. You can call me.
Everybody give me a bunch of ones for BZ Watchdog. $5 donation. The top donor of the night. In fact, the only donor of the night.
Bidden.
Let's do it.
Inflation. What a stupid son of a bitch.
So instead of answering an objectively legitimate question, Joe Biden bullied a reporter and attacked him personally.
What a stupid son of a bitch.
Number 21 on the list might be my personal favorite Biden moment. This is Asian American film and TV producer Joan Shigekawa. In March 2023, Joe Biden awarded her the National Medal of the Arts. And as per usual, Joe Biden screwed up her introduction.
A contribution of Shigekawa. Thank you. I have trouble pronouncing it. You can call me Bidden.
Oh,
classic.
God, what an
but
idiot.
Then less than 7 weeks later, Joe Biden was forced to say her name again.
And Joan Shingang, I'm going to pronounce it right. Shanga Kawawa. I think I pronounced it right.
Number 20 occurred when Joe Biden was watching a skydiving presentation in Italy along with several members of the G7. But then suddenly, Joe Biden starts wandering away from the rest of the group towards one of the skydivers, which led the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni to grab Biden's arm and lead him back to the group. I'm sorry, but a G7 leader needing to run after Joe Biden like he's a toddler, this is not normal. But as usual, the Democrat-run media went into full gaslighting mode.
Cheap fake clips went viral on social media and were picked up by some news outlets. Take a look at this clip, for example. It shows Biden and other world leaders watching a skydiving demonstration before the president is seen walking away.
Now, hold on a minute, guys. Do you if Donald Trump had done something this moronic, this would be 24/7 on the news. Give me a bunch of ones if you think that the mainstream media in this country, the legacy media, is the enemy of the American people. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. Give me a bunch of twos if you're a Marxist Democrat. Thank you.
And looking in another direction.
Okay, pause. For clarity, CBS News is claiming that this clip is digitally altered. So let's compare the actual raw footage with the so-called cheap fake.
It shows Biden and other world leaders watching a skydiving demonstration before the president is seen walking away and looking in another direction.
Did you see it? Did you see the difference between the two clips? Of course you didn't, because it's the same exact footage.
Outlets claimed that he was sort of just aimlessly wandering away. The clip amassed millions of views within just a few hours.
Oh my God, this is so stupid. Aimlessly or not, he was wandering away. And that's the whole point. But instead, CBS News is arguing, oh, well, he had a reason for wandering off.
If you widen out, you can see that he was talking to one of the members of the military that was participating in that demonstration.
But you don't need to widen out because this so-called digitally altered video already shows Biden talking and giving a thumbs up to someone. And did you see this label? That means that it was fact-checked by CBS News Confirmed, which is a special unit at CBS dedicated to combating misinformation, so you know it's real. But great job, CBS News.
Great job.
You're doing God's work. Number 19 occurred on September 28th, 2022, when Biden spoke at a conference on hunger, nutrition, and health. And as presidents are wont to do, Biden acknowledged members of Congress who were attending the event.
I want to thank all of you here, for including bipartisan elected officials like Representative Governor, Senator Braun, Senator Booker, Representative Jackie. Are you here? Where's Jackie? I didn't think she was going to be here to help make this a reality.
Okay, so Jackie would be former Representative Jackie Walorski. And I say former because unfortunately she died in a car.
All right, so I got that one wrong. The other one earlier when he didn't know about something, that one actually didn't pass away. This is the one that had passed away. And he's such a freaking buffoon. Just watch, guys.
Car crash back in August 2022, a month and a half before the conference. And you'd think that Joe Biden would know this as he put out a statement regarding her death saying, Jill and I are shocked and saddened by the death of Congresswoman Jackie Walorski of Indiana. He's so shocked and saddened that he forgot that she died.
Where's Jackie? I didn't think she was going to be here.
So as part of an attempt at damage control, White House press secretary and self-proclaimed historical figure Karine Jean-Pierre came up with the worst excuse ever.
So, of course, she was on his mind. She was of top of mind. She was on top of mind. I mean, I think many people can speak to sometimes when you have someone top of mind, they're a top of mind, exactly that. And she was a top of mind. She was on top of mind. I don't think it's all that unusual to have someone top of mind, being on top of mind, top of mind. And she was on top of mind, top of mind. Again, she was at the top of mind. I feel like many of us have gone through that particular time where someone is on top of mind and you call them out.
So Karine Jean-Pierre's excuse was that Joe Biden was thinking about the Congresswoman and called out to her, even though he knew that she had died.
The confusing part is why, if she and the family is top of mind, does the president think that she's living and in the room?
I don't find that confusing. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Just apologize. These moments of confusion are happening with the reason.
Go ahead.
Excuse me, there are Americans are watching this and are having concerns. What do you say to that? This is a legitimate question. We need to have some answers.
But instead of pushing for legitimate answers from the White House, most of the press corps forgot about it within a couple of hours. I know you're shocked.
I didn't think she was going to be here.
Number 18 on the list is from back in September 2023 when Joe Biden flew to Vietnam. After a day of meetings, Biden thought it would be a great idea to hold a press conference despite the fact that he was very...
Wassa said that he's never heard of that idiom before. I've never heard of it either. Top of mind. I mean, pretty weird. I think that this guy is just an idiot and she's carrying water for him. Like 99% of journalists in this country carry water for the Democrat Party. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree.
Obviously suffering from jet lag.
And look, nobody...
See you later, 100.
...likes having celebrated international meetings if you don't know what you want at the meeting. if you don't have a game plan. He may have a game plan. He just hasn't shared it with me. But I tell you what, I don't know about you, but I'm going to go to bed.
They don't call him Sleepy Joe for nothing. And this press conference was such a disaster that the highlight was when Joe Biden started rambling about his brother.
And there's my brother loves there's famous lines from movies that he always quotes. And one of them is there was a movie about John Wayne. He's an Indian scout, and they're trying to get I think it was the Apache, one of the great tribes of America, back on the reservation, and he's standing with the Union. So they're all on their horses and their saddles, and there's 3 or 4 Indians in headdresses, and the Union soldiers. The Union soldiers basically saying to the Indians, "Come with me, we'll take care of you, everything will be good." And the Indian looks at John Wayne and points to the Union soldier and says, "He's a lion, dog-faced pony soldier."
And this left the president's staff with no choice. Biden's press secretary got on the mic and pulled the plug.
Had access to change it, it wasn't confrontational at all.
Thank you, everybody. This ends the press conference. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. I've raised it with every person I've met with.
Mr. President, are you worried about your son being indicted, Mr. President?
81 million votes, guys. 81 million votes.
81 million votes, my
Next,
ass.
at number 17 on the list, is how Joe Biden repeatedly made the claim that he would not pardon his son Hunter if he were found guilty of violating federal gun and tax laws.
Will you accept the jury's outcome, their verdict, no matter what it is?
Yes.
And have you ruled out a pardon for your son?
Yes. I'm extremely proud of my son Hunter. He has overcome an addiction. He's one of the brightest, most decent men I know, and I am satisfied that I'm not going to do anything. I said I abide by the jury decision, and I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
6 months later. Today, I signed a pardon for my son Hunter. So yes, Joe Biden lied. But to be honest, everyone knew that he was going to pardon his son.
Of course.
But what made the lie more egregious was the reason that Biden gave for doing it. From the day I took office, I said I would not interfere with the Justice Department's decision-making, and I have kept my word, even as I have watched my son being selectively and unfairly prosecuted. It is clear that Hunter was treated differently. Well, that's for sure, because Joe Biden's Justice Department initially offered Hunter Biden a sweetheart plea deal, which would have given him immunity from past or future charges. But a judge refused to rubber stamp the deal, which Biden neglected to mention. For my entire career, I have followed a simple...
Not only did his DOJ do that, but they did it behind the actual prosecutor's back. That's what's so interesting about it. The defense attorney tried to sneak it in, and the prosecutor didn't even know about it. And the judge was like, "What are you doing?"
Principle. Just tell the American people the truth. Bullshit. Here's the truth. I believe in the justice system, but as I have wrestled with this, I also believe raw politics has infected this process, and it led to a miscarriage of justice. Translation? Joe Biden believes in the justice system unless it's going after his criminal son.
Yeah.
Number 16 on the list is when Joe Biden decided that it would be a brilliant idea to name his economic policy after himself.
Most Americans are a $400 unexpected expense away from bankruptcy.
That's Bidenomics in action. You think I'm kidding? But when you when you increase the middle class, the poor have a shot and the wealthy still do very well. That's what we call Bidenomics.
But everyone knows that Bidenomics was a massive failure. Yet Joe Biden kept repeating the false claim that he's the greatest job creator ever.
Over 16 million new jobs. New jobs. The most in any single presidential
Where,
term in American
Mexico?
history.
Joe Biden is a f***ing liar. He did not create over 16 million new jobs. Let's take a look at reality. Between March and April of 2020, nearly 22 million jobs were lost. Between May 2020 and January 2021, 12.5 million of those jobs were recovered. What this means is that under Joe Biden, an additional 9.4 million jobs would need to be created before reaching the break-even point. But for Democrats, math is hard. The reality is that it took 17 months for the Biden administration.
Actually, math is racist, and that's why they're getting rid of math classes in the public schools on the West Coast, right? Because math is racist. Think about that.
To hit that break-even point. Everything from July 2022 to November 2024 is on top of the recovered jobs. So for clarity, under Joe Biden, there have been 6.9 million new jobs created in his first 3 years and 10 months in office. But that number does not account for the Labor Department's overestimate of 818,000 jobs between April 2023 and March 2024. That number won't be made official until after Biden is out of office.
That's right.
How convenient.
How convenient.
So when Joe Biden entered office in 2021, inflation was at 1.4% annually. By June 2021, it had risen to 5.4%. But Joe Biden wasn't worried, which is number 15 on the list.
And by the way, talk of inflation. The overwhelming consensus is going to pop up a little bit and then go back down. No one's talking about this great, So again, if it turns out that what I've done so far, what we've done so far, is a mistake, it's going to show. The vast majority of the experts, including Wall Street, are suggesting that it's highly unlikely that it's going to be long-term inflation that's going to get out of hand. We will, in fact, reduce inflation. Reduce inflation. Reduce inflation.
But unfortunately, Biden and the experts were way off. By October 2021, inflation had risen to 6.2%.
You had told us at a town hall, I think it was in July, that this was just near-term inflation. The Wall Street Journal recently talked to like 67 financial experts who said that they saw high inflation going all the way or deep into 2022. Do you think it's going to last for a while?
I don't think so. I don't think it will last, depending what we do. If we stay exactly where we are, yes. If we don't make these investments, yes.
But despite all of these
tax the shit out of people and
investments,
steal their money.
inflation continued deep into 2022 and 2023, rising to a 40-year high of 9.1%. The Biden-Harris administration refused to admit that inflation was due to their massive spending. It's a prime reason why Trump won a second term.
It's no accident. It's Bidenomics in action.
Number 14 can be defined in a single word.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was in the foothills of the Himalayas with Xi Jinping.
So during an event celebrating the first African-American woman confirmed to the Supreme Court, not to mention the first not to be able to define what a woman is, Joe Biden decided to make it about himself.
Traveling with him, I guess we traveled 17,000 miles when I was vice president. I don't know that for a fact.
So Biden claims that he actually traveled 17,000 miles with Xi Jinping, and then immediately says, I don't know that for a fact. But he should know that it's not true, considering that the Washington Post has fact-checked him repeatedly on the matter and deemed his claims to be worthy of 3 Pinocchios.
I was in the
Back in October 2021, professional race car driver Brandon Brown won the NASCAR Xfinity Series Sparks 300. And during a post-race interview, the crowd was chanting, "F*** Joe Biden." But NBC Sports reporter Kelly Stavist said that they were saying something else.
Brandon, you also told me, as you can hear the chants from the crowd, let's go, Brandon. Brandon, you told me you were going to...
And with that, Let's Go Brandon was born.
Across this country, we've seen this new phenomenon lately, chanted at sporting events and on signs. The phrase is "Let's Go Brandon," a sort of code for a profane slogan attacking President Biden. What does the president make of that?
I don't think he spends much time focused on it or thinking about it.
And that's too bad, because number 13 on the list is when Joe Biden and his wife, Dr. First Lady, were taking phone calls for NORAD's Santa Tracker hotline.
I hope you have a wonderful Christmas.
Yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful Christmas as well. Merry
thank
Christmas, and let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon. I agree.
Classic Joe Biden. And what makes this even more special is Jill Biden's priceless reaction.
Hey, by the way, where are you in Oregon? Where's your home? I think we lost him.
Yeah.
Let's go, Brandon. I agree.
The next entry on our list occurred during Joe Biden's 2024 State of the Union address, when he started blaming Trump and the Republicans for rejecting the so-called bipartisan border bill.
But unfortunately, politics has derailed this bill so far. I'm told my predecessor called members of Congress in the Senate to demand they block the bill. He feels political win. He viewed it as a political win for me and a political loser for him. It's not about him. It's not about me. I'd be a winner. Not really.
And that yelling came from Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, who was criticizing Joe Biden's open border policies and how they led to a Venezuelan migrant being able to enter the country illegally and allegedly murder 22-year-old nursing student Laken Riley. And Biden's pathetic response is number 12 on the list.
Laken Riley.
Of course her name is not Lincoln, it's Laken. Hell, it's on the button he's holding in his hand. Maybe the button that she gave Biden should have said, say her name correctly.
An innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right.
That's right.
But how many of thousands of people being killed by illegals?
A lot, Joe.
So Joe Biden's response was, yes, an illegal killed a woman. But then he tried to flip it around, saying that legals kill people too. Great job in minimizing her death, you Anyway, after Biden's illegals moment, there was outrage from the left. Not because a woman was brutally murdered, but because Joe Biden used a no-no word.
Do you regret using the word illegal to describe immigrants last night, sir?
Well, I don't regret it. Was technically not supposed to be here.
It's in the
So
federal
he started to say that he didn't regret it. And good for him. Illegal is short for illegal alien, which is the actual legal designation for Laken Riley's murder.
That's exactly right.
Far-left Democrats and immigrants' rights organizations wouldn't let up and accused him of using far-right rhetoric. So instead of standing his ground, Joe Biden quickly caved.
That's literally federal law that says illegal all over federal law. And it's like, now it's like racist to call people who are illegally in our country getting free shit from us taxpayers, having their way with our women and RAPing our women and causing massive amounts of crime, burning American flags, waving Mexican flags around. You can't call them illegals. Give me a fucking break.
What's the word illegal when talking about the man who allegedly killed Laken Riley?
An undocumented person. What I won't do, I'm not going to treat any of these people with disrespect.
What an idiot.
Look, they built the country. The reason our economy is growing.
So illegal immigrants built the country? Really? Why is Joe Biden conflating legal immigrants with illegal immigrants? I mean, Joe Biden used to know the difference.
There's an awful lot of the illegals, quote unquote. We can fix this problem in 15 years from now. We're going to be saying, what are we going to do about the flow of illegals into the country of the United States of America?
So you regret using that word?
Yes.
Joe Biden won't apologize for calling a murder victim by the wrong name in front of millions of people or reach out to her family or anything. But he will apologize for the heinous act of disrespecting a violent criminal. It's another prime reason why Donald Trump is getting a second term. Number 11 occurred during the June 2024 presidential debate, where Commander-in-Chief Joe Biden made a shocking claim.
when he was president, we were still found ourselves in a position where you had a notion that we were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
So for clarity, just months prior, 2 Navy SEALs were lost at sea during a mission off the coast of Somalia, and 3 US soldiers were killed following a drone attack in Jordan. Joe Biden attended their dignified transfer. Let me repeat that. He attended their dignified transfer. Not to mention that he also attended the dignified transfer of the 13 service members who, thanks to the Biden administration's incompetence, were killed during the withdrawal from Afghanistan. I guess he forgot since he was staring at his watch the whole damn time. What an absolute f***ing disgrace.
Disgrace.
We've finally made it to the top 10. And I have to give a shout out to the GOAT, comedian Shane Gillis, who made the following astute observation during his first Netflix special.
Check this
Anytime Biden finishes a speech, he transforms into a Roomba.
So at number 10, here's a Joe Biden Roomba montage.
Ay, 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 what a clown.
Thank you. And now, I will sign the proclamation. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Here.
You've got to be kidding me.
Now, what's worse than Joe Biden looking confused on stage? Well, that would be number 9 on the list. Joe Biden tripping and falling on stage.
God, this is unbelievable, man. There's no way this guy got 81 million votes.
No matter what the cost, 2, 10, 12, 15. Whoops, stepping on him. That's black. Anyway.
Oh, jeez, this is just unbelievable, man.
In at number 8, Joe Biden was giving remarks via Zoom to Vota Latino just days before the 2024 election and was commenting on a questionable joke made by comedian Tony Hinchcliffe. And that call was a disaster, even by normal Joe Biden standards.
And just the other day, a speaker at his rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. Well, let me tell you something. I don't know the Puerto Rican that I know, or Puerto Rico where I'm in my home state of Delaware. They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
The backlash on social media was immediate and severe, and the clip was viewed tens of millions of times just within a few hours, which forced Joe Biden's staff to go into full damage control mode. White House Senior Deputy Press Secretary Andrew Bates posted on X that Joe Biden referred to the hateful rhetoric at the Madison Square Garden rally as garbage, and posted a transcript claiming that Biden didn't say his supporters, but said his supporters with an apostrophe. But the problem is that video exists for everyone to see. Everyone knows that Joe Biden thinks the Republicans are garbage. He just said the quiet part out loud. Coming in at number 7 is Joe Biden's atrocious response to the August 2023 wildfires that ripped through the island of Maui, where at least 100 people lost their lives. It was the 5th deadliest wildfire in United States history, and ironically, Joe Biden went to the beach to take a day off. No, You're riding a bicycle, dumbass. Now, when you consider how catastrophic the fire was, Joe Biden's no comment response, along with images of Joe Biden lounging on the beach, conveyed the message that he didn't give a f***. And it took 13 days for Joe Biden to get up off his ass and fly to Maui. But when he did, he made it about himself.
The devastation is overwhelming. To date, 114 dead, hundreds of people
Yeah, I know,
unaccounted
crazy.
for. I remember when I got the call, my first wife and daughter, you got to come home. There's been an accident. I said, what happened? He said, your wife, she's dead.
This guy's an
Come
idiot.
home, come home. The tractor trailer had broadsided her and killed her in a car accident along with my little daughter.
A deadly wildfire and a car accident aren't remotely the same. But Joe Biden, he can't help himself.
Many of you have lost family. Not even sure where some are. I've had a similar experience. Tractor trailer that broadsided my wife Christmas shopping with my 3 children. She was killed. My baby was killed.
Yes, Joe, please tell us the story about how your wife and daughter died 50 years ago. That'll give us comfort. And if that wasn't enough, Biden decided to tell a tall tale claiming that his house burned down back in 2004.
I don't want to compare difficulties, but
I don't want to compare difficulties, but I'm going to compare difficulties.
we have a little sense, Jill and I, what it's like to lose a home. 15 years ago, I was
15
in Washington doing Meet the Press. It was a sunny Sunday, and lightning struck at home on a little lake. It's outside of our home, not a lake, a big pond, and hit a wire and came up underneath our home into the heating duct, the air conditioning duct. To make a long story short, I almost lost my wife, my 67 Corvette, and my cat. But all kidding aside.
Guys, I know you've lost everything, but let me tell you about a tragedy and how I almost lost my Corvette and my cat.
Yeah, that's right, Kinetic.
But all kidding aside. But in reality, it was a small fire, as firefighters kept the flames from spreading beyond the kitchen. The Cranston Heights Fire Company chief said, "Luckily, we got it pretty early. The fire was under control in 20 minutes.
And we were insured. We did not have any problem.
But don't worry, everything turned out great for us. As for you Hawaiians, we're gonna send you $700. Go knock yourself out." Number 6 on the list is when President Biden hosted the 33rd.
All right, guys, I got to call it a night. I wanted to keep going, but I'm tired, man. And now my stomach is so sore from laughing at this disgrace. And you guys got to watch a little bit earlier how the FBI under Chris Wray covered up the evidence that the communist Chinese were flooding the United States with fake driver's licenses to help the Democrats rig the 2020 election. And the FBI buried all the evidence. Unbelievable, guys. And to this day, the left-wing press won't even cover the story. But yet they'll say that a 3-hour protest at the Capitol was some kind of an insurrection, but they won't say that trillions of dollars in damage caused by BLM and Antifa and the other pro-Democrat rioters, that all that was a mostly peaceful protest. So I'm going to tell you right now, if you want to get the real news, come on to my channel, learn about what's really going on. I'll explain it from a legal perspective. I'll teach you the rules of evidence and the things that I know so you can actually separate truth from falsity. You don't have to be one of these bullshit fake fact checkers to understand how to extrapolate evidence and draw up the facts with the evidence. So good seeing you, Officer Safety. Let me know, guys, what kind of a show you want me to cover next time. I just wanted to have some fun with this because of the driver's license scandal and the communist Chinese working with the Biden administration to allegedly rig the 2020 election, and how it was covered up by the press, how it was covered up by the leftist run news media. And I wanted to be able to cover that and then show you the outcome of that election interference, that alleged election interference, which is Sleepy Joe being president for 4 years, Otto Pen Joe, the worst disgrace of president this country has ever seen. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. With that being said, guys, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down